luck.
If you're, a pop figure, you know what I mean, like in this world.
Like Marilyn Manson, who you do, and Jessica Simpson, and Sarah Palin, I guess. She's, but you can see why. If you do Sarah Palin, people might think, oh, he wants to make a statement about Sarah Palin or American politics.
I want to nail her, but...
Well, you got... If anyone's gonna, I think you got a good chance.
Imagine two rap titans, brothers under Dr. Dre, suddenly at war. Snoop Dogg blasts Eminem's legacy on air, claiming he could live without his music, sparking a Cold War that had fans ready for blood. This wasn't just a disagreement. It was a seismic shift in hip-hop's power structure. A betrayal between men who once shared stages, tours, and even a label's DNA. The feud began quietly, almost accidentally in July 2020 when Snoop sat down with the Breakfast Club and dropped a bombshell. Eminem, the man Dre himself had molded into a global phenomenon, didn't make his top 10 rappers list. Not just that, he dismissed M's entire catalog as something he could live without. The words hung in the air like a challenge and the internet exploded. How could Snoop, a man who'd collaborated with M, who toured alongside him, suddenly act like his music was disposable?
And he was gang related, so it was like our first meeting was on bad terms because we were still gang affiliated and we were using gang terminology.
We can see the contradiction clearly now. Snoop didn't just question Eminem's skill. He credited Dr. Dre for his success, framing M as a product of Dre's genius rather than a self-made lyrical force. He name-checked 8's legends like Rakim and Ice Cube, implying M couldn't touch their greatness. Yet, in the same breath, he claimed love and respect for the Detroit rapper. The mixed signals were deafening. Fans scrambled to make sense of it. Was this a calculated diss, a misfired joke, or something deeper? A simmering resentment finally boiling over. Eminem, a man who'd built his career on precision and control, wasn't about to let that slide. By December 2020, he fired back on Zeus, a track from the deluxe edition of Music to Be, flipping dog to God in a subliminal jab that cut deep. "Man dog, you was like a damn god to me," he rapped before twisting the knife. "Nah, not really." The message was clear. Snoop's words hadn't just stung, they'd shattered an illusion.
Eminem doubles down, and I say doubled down because Eminem has kind of sent shots at Diddy before.
What made this feud so explosive wasn't just the public shots fired, but the history behind them. These weren't random rappers trading barbs. They were two of Dre's most iconic protégés, men who'd been linked for decades. Their collaboration wasn't just a track. It was a statement of unity, a moment where West Coast and Midwest rap fused under Dre's production. So when Snoop dismissed M's legacy, it wasn't just a hot take. It felt like a betrayal. And Eminem, a man who'd spent his career proving himself in a genre that once doubted white rappers, wasn't about to let that stand. The subliminal disc on Zeus wasn't just a clapback. It was a declaration that the gloves were off. Fans dissected every line, every Instagram post, every cryptic interview, waiting for the next move. Snoop, ever the strategist, hinted at a response, posting on social media that M should pray he didn't answer. The tension was palpable, the stakes higher than ever. But here's where the story takes a darker turn. Because this wasn't just about rap egos. It was about history, about unsolved mysteries, about the shadows that still loom over hip-hop's golden era. Snoop's comments didn't just target Eminem. They echoed a pattern of dismissals of rewriting legacies. And M, a man known for his lyrical precision, didn't just fire back at Snoop. He started dropping hints about deeper truths, about Shocker's passing, about Diddy's alleged involvement, about the powerful figures who'd shaped hip-hop's darkest chapters. Suddenly, this feud wasn't just about two rappers. It was about the untold stories lurking beneath the surface. The questions piled up. Was Snoop's disc really about M's skills, or was it a distraction from something bigger? Was Eminem's response a personal clapback or a coded message about who really pulled the strings in hip-hop's most infamous tragedies?
He doesn't care what, the new generation thinks of him. He doesn't care what he says offends people.
We know how this plays out in the rap world. Beefs escalate, diss tracks drop, and the culture feeds on the drama. But this time, the stakes felt different because Snoop Dogg isn't just a rapper. He's a man with ties to Death Row, to Suge Knight, to the very era when Shakur was gunned down in Las Vegas. And Eminem. He's the man who spent years weaving those unsolved mysteries into his lyrics, dropping hints about Diddy, about Keffi D, about the forces that shaped hip-hop's bloodiest moments. So when he rapped, "I ain't trying to beef with him 'cause he might put a hit on me like Keffy D did," it wasn't just a punchline, it was a warning, a reminder that in hip-hop, some feuds aren't just about pride, they're about survival.
You're gonna establish yourself as a businessman. I wasn't taught on Death Row Records. All my cars was in Suge Knight.
The timeline here is crucial because while Snoop and M were trading shots in 2020, the world was also watching as Keffy D, the man long suspected in Shocker's passing, was finally charged as Suge Knight from his prison cell started dropping hints about Snoop's alleged role in Shocker's demise. As Diddy's name resurfaced in lawsuits, in hotel footage, in whispers about bombs and threats, Eminem's lyrics suddenly didn't seem like random disses. They seemed like pieces of a puzzle. And Snoop's silence on those topics, it spoke volumes. Was this feud really about a top 10 list? Or was it about the secrets that still haunt hip-hop's past? Then came the twist no one saw coming. Just as the beef reached its peak, just as fans braced for an all-out lyrical war, the two men quietly buried the hatchet. No grand apology tour, no press conference, just a private phone call, a new track, and a return to the stage together at the Super Bowl halftime show. The reconciliation was so smooth, so seamless that it left fans wondering what really happened behind the scenes. Did Dre's health scare force them to put aside their differences? Or was there something else, something bigger that made them realize this feud wasn't worth the cost? Because in hip-hop, when legends like Snoop and M decide to stand down, it's never just about the music. It's about the stories they're not telling.
Did it take, do you think, before you got good enough to think, okay, this is working now? How many times did you have bad on-stage experiences?
Maybe a couple.
So not that
I'm pretty
many.
awesome.
And that's where things get interesting because while the public saw a squashed beef, insiders whisper about the conversations that never made it to the press. About the things Snoop and M discussed in private, the things they agreed to leave unsaid. About the way Eminem's latest album, The Death of Slim Shady, didn't just target Diddy. It circled back to the same themes, the same unsolved mysteries, the same names that keep surfacing in hip-hop's darkest chapters. The question isn't just about why they fought or even why they made up. It's about what they know. About the truths that still lurk in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered. Because if there's one thing we've learned from hip-hop's history, it's that the biggest feuds aren't just about ego. They're about power, about control, about the stories that get written and the ones that get buried. And when two legends like Snoop and M decide to end a war before it really begins, we can't help but ask, what did they see coming that the rest of us didn't? The answers might be hidden in the lyrics, in the interviews, in the quiet conversations no one was meant to hear. But one thing's for sure, this story isn't over. Not by a long shot. Because in hip-hop, the past never stays buried. And the men who know the truth, they're still talking. Just not to us. Not yet.
She stepped up as my wife and handled that. And there's been many times where I've been at my lowest, and she's always been the strongest to get me back up to get back out there. You gotta get back out there and do what you do. Don't worry about what's happening over here.
The turning point came in January 2021 when Dr. Dre suffered a brain aneurysm that sent shock waves through the hip-hop world. As the man who shaped both Snoop and Eminem's careers fought for his life in intensive care, something shifted between the two rappers. Sources close to the situation reveal that private phone calls were made, apologies exchanged, egos set aside. Snoop himself later admitted on Rolling Stone Music Now that he reached out to Eminem with a simple message. "I was wrong, bro. Do you forgive me?" The reconciliation seemed genuine, even heartfelt. But here's the thing, it also felt rushed, too convenient, too neat. Because if we look at the timeline, Eminem had just spent months publicly dissecting why Snoop's comment stung so deeply, calling that final dig music I can live without, flat out disrespectful. So why the sudden change of heart? Was it really about Dre's health? Or was there another reason these two needed to bury the hatchet fast? Insiders suggest the feud wasn't just about a top 10 list or a misfired diss track. The real tension traces back to a collapsed collaboration, a feature request that went horribly wrong. Eminem later revealed on Shade 4 that Snoop had wanted him on a track, but the message got twisted in translation. Instead of a simple, "Let's hear the beat first," Snoop's team allegedly took it as a flat-out rejection, sparking resentment. He thought that meant I didn't __ with him. Eminem explained, case closed. Not quite. Because if this was just a misunderstanding, why did the bad blood linger for months? Why did Eminem drop not one but multiple subliminal shots on Music to Be, including that Zeus verse where he flipped God to dog like a verbal knife twist? And why, even after the apology, did the energy between them still feel off? Then came Eminem's 2024 album, The Death of Slim Shady. And suddenly, the feud's ghost resurfaced in the most chilling way possible. The track Antichrist didn't just diss, it spelled out RAPER while leaving out AP. A move so deliberate it felt like a coded message. Next, Ask Me is getting his beat worse than Diddy did. M rapped before dropping a line about she probably ran out the room with his. The reference was unmistakable. The 2016 hotel footage of Diddy assaulting Cassie Ventura, a scandal that had just resurfaced in lawsuits and federal raids. But here's where it gets wilder. Because Eminem didn't stop there. On Fuel, he rapped about rest in peace Biggie and Shakur, both of y'all should be living. Then dropped the bomb. He might put a hit on me like Keffi D did. Keffi D, the man charged with orchestrating Shocker's 1996 passing. The same Keffi D whose nephew Orlando Anderson was in the car that night. The same Keffi D who for decades walked free while Suge Knight and Snoop Dogg built empires off Shocker's legacy.